Some huge news for the Texas Longhorns.
Yards shy of the record. Williams breaks a hole. Williams had a record book. Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame. Touchback. Ricky Williams, touchdown.
Young from the shotgun. Back to throw. Vince looks. Under pressure. He'll tuck it in run. Vince to the 5. Young. Touchdown Texas. Touchdown Vince Young. He's done it again.
Longhorn Nation, we're back!
Welcome into another edition of the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast. I'm your host, Mac Latson, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Zach Dimmitt, who is live in Portland for March Madness. It's going to be a good one. Texas has BYU tonight. We will talk about that. We will also recap the NC State matchup and what it means for Texas to actually officially, in my opinion, be in the tournament. But first, Zach, some huge news for the Texas Longhorns offensive line. According to reports, Laurence Seymore, transfer offensive guard from Western Kentucky, second-team All-American, according to Phil Steele. We've been waiting for a decision. We finally now have one. Laurence Seymore will be eligible to play for the Texas Longhorns in 2026. He will not join the team in the spring. He is finishing his degree at Western Kentucky before making the move over to Austin. But nonetheless, this is massive, massive news for the Texas Longhorns offensive line, which looks like it's taken a complete 180 from last year's leaky, kind of overmatched offensive line to now what appears to be a very, very strong unit that should help lead a very explosive offensive attack.
Yeah, this was big news. Kind of came out of nowhere, but that's kind of how we expected this thing to go. It was just the news was just gonna drop any point. Either he was going to be eligible or he wasn't going to be. And it was looking kind of grim there for a little bit, especially after the first spring practice where Sark said there still hadn't been an update. Doesn't mean, it didn't mean for sure that, he was going to be eligible, but it was kind of like, oh man, it's been a little bit now and we still haven't heard an answer. But, all that can be put aside now. Laurence Seymore is going to be a Texas Longhorn, and it's unfortunate he won't be here during the spring. But I think that considering that he couldn't have been with the team at all, this is definitely, you'll definitely take that. He'll be able to join in the fall. He'll be a little bit behind with, learning the playbook and being able to work his way into the lineup, because at the end of the day, he comes in from the transfer portal, but as we know with this coaching staff and with many coaching staffs around the country, now it's going to be handed a starting job. So he's got to at least work. He's going to be a little bit behind once he arrives at fall camp with kind of proving himself, I guess. But as we've kind of seen with like maybe some of the injury issues, this gives other guys a chance to step up and prove to the coaching staff what they have to offer. And obviously at offensive line, depth is going to be premium, or you would love for it to be a premium. And so the coaching staff will be able to see if they really do have that. Some of these guys that are going to be the 6 or 7 or 8 offensive linemen behind the projected starting group when you include Seymore. So big news yesterday, and you really, really feel good about the offensive line now heading into the fall.
Yeah, and Laurence Seymore now being in the fold, joining probably in the summer. I was for summer workouts, honestly. Him now in the fold. What does the Texas Longhorns offensive line actually look like when we hit the field for the season opener against Texas State? Couple positions we already know for a fact. Trevor Goosby at left tackle. Think you can lock that one down. Melvin Siani at right tackle. Pretty sure you can lock that one down. Connor Robertson at center. There really isn't another one on the roster, so you better lock that one down too. So how do the guard positions actually play out? In my opinion, I think you should put Brandon Baker at left guard, because he will eventually be your left tackle once Trevor Goosby, at least in my opinion, once Trevor Goosby heads off to the NFL after next season. And then you can put Laurence Seymore at right guard. You have a lot of continuity on the left with Goosby and Baker, who really know each other well. along with Connor Robertson in the middle, and then the two new transfers on the right guard and right tackle spots. I think that is a very, very solid starting group. And I'm really excited to see what they can do because obviously the offensive line was a huge downfall of what happened last year with Texas losing 3 games. Look at the Florida game, you look at the Georgia game, they were absolutely whipped up front. Not so much in the Ohio State game, that came down to a few other things, but in those 2 losses in particular, they were just absolutely whipped up front, and it made the difference. Here's the other thing too. As excited as I am about the starting unit, the starting 5, whatever combination it ends up being, in whatever positions it ends up being in, the depth is still a little bit of a concern to me. It's very unproven. Dylan Sikorsky has played some Pac-12 football. Like, he's a good player, but we don't know how he's going to stack up in the SEC. Jonte Newman didn't really see the field at Texas A&M. Some of these young guys haven't seen the field yet either. The Coleman twins, Jackson Christian. There's a lot of new on this offensive line, both in the starting unit with Seymore and Siani, but also behind them. How does that all shake out? I'm not so sure. I know that the talent is there, though. I also know that John Turntine III has really been blowing people away so far in spring workouts. True freshman, though. So let's not get too excited about that one. The point I'm trying to make here is the starting unit is fantastic, right? I love the starting unit. It gives me shades of, 2023, 2024 Texas offensive line with, Jake Majors and Hayden Christian, all those guys, Kelvin Banks, great unit. But behind them, if there's an injury, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's kind of what I had mentioned previously with Laurence Seymore not being with the team right away. It kind of allows the coaching staff a little bit to see what they have. Maybe at left guard, you can you can just try out a bunch of guys at that spot and see, where their strengths lie, because you really don't know what they're best at until they're in practice against other SEC guys. And so the Coleman twins, Jaden Chapman, I should say. Even Jonte Newman, I know he's listed as a tackle when he was at A&M, but he didn't. I don't think he even played at all. And maybe if I'm mistaken, I'll admit that. But I don't think he saw any significant snaps, maybe against Sanford or something. And so, you try him at left guard too. You never know. And so you got to see what you have with some of these guys, because it's a great starting unit now. But if you look at some of the projected departures for next offseason, you're going to have to do the exact same thing next year with retooling the entire offensive line. Goosby's going to be gone. Seymour's going to be out of eligibility. Siani's going to be we'll see about Siani. He's listed as a junior, but will he declare? I'm not sure about what his where his eligibility lies, but he could be gone as well. And so you're kind of left.
Connor Robertson too.
Yeah, Connor Robinson is a redshirt senior. Yeah, and so you're kind of left with the exact same situation with having to retool the offensive line. So you can see what you have with some of these depth guys before fall, and then you see, and also getting some snaps in non-conference play that could be helpful. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit of an issue, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. I think that's the thing about college football, is that there's always going to be some uncertainty until these guys go out and prove it, because every player at one point has to go out there and prove what they can do and prove that they're productive players. So only time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even I can hear the comments now. Andre Kojo is there. Yes, I know.
Kojo, yes.
Jaden Chapman is there. Yes, I know. We know about these guys. Don't worry. The problem is they haven't really seen the field either. They're experienced in the program. They've played a few snaps here and there. But are they ready for 70 snaps in an SEC game? They've never seen that before. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. And a lot of these guys, I'm not trying to shade the talent at the Texas offensive line. I think that the room overall, if you go from left to right, the whole depth chart, I think it's really good and really talented and deep. I just, me being the worry wart that I am, I worry about an injury, because that could really throw things for a loop. I mean, you saw what happened in 2025. When there's one position on the offensive line that's really leaky, it affects the rest of it. That left guard issue really, and not obviously there was an issue at center with Cole Hudson there for a little while, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like the left guard thing completely threw the offensive line out of whack. Now you feel really good, so we'll see where that goes. Zach, let's take a quick break and hear a message from our esteemed sponsor, Dalton Trigg. And then, we'll get into what really matters right now, which is March Madness and the Longhorns winning a first 4 game. They have officially gotten farther than Rodney Terry in year 1 under Sean Miller. And I'm stoked about it.
This episode of the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast is brought to you by Custom Built Trailers of Mississippi. Custom Built Trailers is the largest in-stock trailer dealer in Mississippi with a variety of options to choose from. From flatbed goosenecks to bumper pull equipment trailers and car haulers to enclosed trailers and basic utility trailers, we do a little bit of everything. And if we don't have exactly what you're looking for in stock, we can typically have your custom built trailer built in 7 to 10 working days. 0% financing options are available, and we also deliver out of state. So give Custom Built Trailers of Mississippi a call at 601-722-9581 today and let us take care of your hauling needs. Custom Built Trailers of Mississippi. If we don't have it, we'll be glad to build it.
Welcome back to the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast. I'm your host, Matt Galatson, joined by Zach Dimmitt, who is live in Portland for Texas Longhorns on SI. Because you know why he's there? Because the Texas Longhorns are dancing, and they beat the NC State Wolfpack in the first 4 on, Tuesday night?
Yes, Tuesday.
Yeah, and it's a massive, massive deal for the Longhorns basketball program. You didn't know what was going to happen in year 1 under Sean Miller with this roster. For a long time, we didn't think they were even going to make the tournament. And then not only do they make the tournament, but they advance farther than Rodney Terry did in his final year, which can officially shut everybody up about whether or not it was the right idea to move on from Rodney Terry. I love Rodney Terry. I do. I think he's a great guy. I think Sean Miller's a better basketball coach. And now I'm vindicated. I am vindicated. But Zach, it was a very exciting game in Dayton with the Longhorns and the Wolfpack. Came down to the final moments. A little bit lower scoring of a game than I anticipated. I believe the final score was 68-66. Trevone Mark comes down the floor and hits a go-ahead jumper with almost no time left. And then a Texas Longhorns assistant runs it on the floor. Nearly gets a technical, which would have probably made Sean Miller's head explode. But they avoid that. They get the win. How did Texas emerge victorious in Dayton, Zach?
Well, it was kind of surprising how they were able to emerge, to be honest. Not that they won. I thought they could have, won the game, but it was the style in which they won. It was with their defense, and that's what Sean Miller said after the game. He doesn't sugarcoat things. He said he was truly trying to remember every game from the season. He said, this is probably the first game this season where we won with our defense. That was pretty much his exact quote. And so, if you're winning 68-66 in a game against a team that you beat 102-97 earlier in the season, you definitely are doing something on the defensive end, because if you'd have told me that Texas was going to score 68 points and beat NC State, I would have thought you were an absolute lunatic, because I even went on record whenever we recorded the show a few days before the game, and I said that, this game won't be won in the 60s. It'll be a high-scoring game, and I was completely wrong about that. It was very surprising about how low-scoring it was, and both these teams had a lot of offensive firepower, so it was pretty surprising. But it says a lot that Texas was able to win in a game where they were well below their scoring average. So I think that's something to feel positive about. And Trevone Mark, once again, super clutch. That was his 5th career game winner. At first, I thought it was his 4th career, but I believe they're counting a go-ahead basket he made with like 20 or so seconds left when he was at Houston. That was in March Madness, back when he was with the Cougars. So he's made 2 career game winners with Houston, 2 with Texas, and 1 with Arkansas. And certainly the one last night, he even admitted, or not last night, Tuesday night, he admitted was up there with one being his favorite game winner that he's hit. So, big win for Texas, because if you lose in the first 4, in my opinion, I think it would have been a disappointing season. There's not really much to feel good about when you don't even make it into the bracket all the way, and then you lose the play-in game. Now Texas is in the bracket against BYU, and yeah, as you said, Rodney Terry wasn't able to advance past the first 4 last season. There is a little bit of an argument to be made, though, that I think he deserves some credit for getting Texas. He was 4 before last season. He was 4-2 in the NCAA tournament, which is solid. Of course, the season where they went on their run, it was with mostly Chris Beard's team that he had put together. But Rodney Terry does deserve some credit with leading that team for pretty much the entire season. So, but at the end of the day, I think it was pretty obvious that a change needed to be made. Especially when you had Trey Johnson on the roster last year and you still couldn't win a play-in game. It was disappointing. And so I think Sean Miller, things are trending up because Texas almost blew that lead against NC State, I'll admit, but against Xavier last year, they did blow the lead late and they ended up losing. They weren't able to hold on. So there's a few differences there to note. And so now Texas has a chance to potentially make a run. We'll see how things play out. It is March Madness, but we'll talk about that once we get into the BYU stuff. But I think there's a chance for Texas.
Yeah, definitely. And there's this. So I used to be on this show called Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered, which it is no longer around. It's now Bucky and BK. Shout out to Bucky and BK. But we had this segment that we did every single day, me and my old co-host Patrick Davis, and it was called the Meathead of the Day. And I want to give an honorary Meathead of the Day, first of all, to the assistant who almost ran out on the floor and nearly cost Texas the game, because if they call it technical there and that goes to free throws and that the game goes to overtime and Texas loses, that dude is out of a job, period.
Yep.
And then the real Meathead of the Day is actually Sean Miller, because after the game, Sean Miller not only does the Xavier X to the Xavier fan that's in the crowd, he also accidentally does a horns down. At first, I thought it was AI, Zach. I really did. But unfortunately, it was not. Sean Miller gets caught with his metaphorical pants down, and that's okay, though, because it was all in good fun. He was super excited, and I don't blame him, because it's his first year as a head coach. I mean, how many times has he actually done the hook 'em horns thing? He's still learning. He'll get it. He's going to be here for a long time. You know why? Because he just won a tournament game, and that automatically means that he's going to be in Austin for longer than Rodney Terry, probably, because that's just how it works, I guess. Anyway, let's get into the BYU game, Zach, because this is a very interesting matchup to me. Jay Billis predicted Texas to win this game. We both kind of agree that is certainly a possibility due to the injury issue that the BYU has, which I will let you explain here in a moment. But Dailyn Swain versus AJ Dybantsa, is that how you pronounce it? Dybantsa? I have a hard time with that one. That is going to be a hell of a matchup, because that is arguably the number 1 pick in the NBA draft in AJ Dybantsa versus what should be at least mid to late first round pick in Dailyn Swain, should he indeed choose to go to the NBA. That's some star power in an 11-6 matchup. I haven't seen AJ Dybantsa play yet. I mean, I've heard tremendous things. I just don't watch a ton of college basketball that's not Texas, because I only have so much bandwidth for that kind of stuff. Zach is a junkie, so he watches all of it. But I mean, how do you see that matchup in particular, Zach? Because I think it's going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah, it's not often you get these NBA kind of level, one-on-one matchups in college basketball, and especially March Madness. So I'm pretty excited about it. The thing, you kind of think to yourself, oh, maybe Dailyn Swain will be assigned with guarding AJ Dybantsa the entire game, and it just doesn't necessarily work like that. I wish it did, because I think that if anyone's going to be guarding AJ Dybantsa, it should be Dailyn Swain. I don't really see anyone else on the roster that is capable of being able to keep up with his size and speed and scoring ability, because he is just such a natural when it comes to all of those things. He leads the country in scoring, for God's sakes, and he's a true freshman. I mean, that is insane. And it's not like he's on some crappy team and putting up all these points. No, he's on a tournament team that won like 10 straight games earlier this season, and they kind of fell off a little bit. So this guy is the real deal. I think that it's hard to compare him and Dailyn Swain, because AJ Dybantsa is a generational talent, and Dailyn Swain has had to sort of build himself up into an NBA player, which massive credit to him. But sometimes it's like, when a guy just stands out as just a potential generational guy, it's really hard to compare those two, even though they're both going to be first round draft picks, in my opinion. So Dailyn Swain, it's not going to be about. I asked him yesterday during the press conference if that kind of heightens his competitiveness when he goes up against a player like that. But I made sure to preface it knowing what he was going to say, saying, I know you're putting the team first. And he was admitting that, yes, I am putting the team first. But of course, it heightens his competitiveness, is what he was telling me. So I think that we're going to see the best out of both of those guys, hopefully, later today. And but at the end of the day, it's going to take a team effort to guard AJ Dybantsa, because he's an elite scorer. He can score at any spot on the floor. He can shoot. He can drive. He's extremely athletic. He's got great size, and he can guard multiple positions. And if you have if Jordan Pope is on AJ Dybantsa, I do not feel very good about my chances. And I think Jordan Pope's a great player, but the defense is not his strong suit. And so you're going to need to force double teams and quick rotations. It's going to be tough. But at the end of the day, like you mentioned with BYU's injury issues, Richie Saunders is one of their best shooters, and one of the best shooters in the Big 12. And he had a torn ACL a few weeks back, and he's been out for multiple weeks now. So they kind of have known he's not going to be there. It's not like this has just happened. So they've kind of had some time to adjust, but it was something that heading into March Madness, people knew would kind of be an issue for them potentially. And so BYU's not at full strength, and so there is a chance potentially for Texas to beat BYU. Let's see who they play. If they play Gonzaga or Kennesaw State next round, likely Gonzaga, obviously, but Gonzaga has injury issues also. So, but clearly Vegas likes Texas's chances a little bit. BYU is only a 2.5 point favorite, and 11 seeds over 6 seeds is not considered some massive upset or anything like that. It's happened quite a bit over the years. We've even seen some 11 seeds be favored over a 6 seed. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but it's going to start and end with what AJ Dybantsa is able to do for BYU, because if he goes off for like 35 points, which is certainly a possibility against this Texas defense, the Longhorns will be headed home.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Zach. I mean, the issues that Texas has had defensively this year are troubling. If you add the nation's leading scorer to the other team against that defense, I'm a little concerned. I think that he could, we saw Darius Acuff from Arkansas just absolutely go off multiple times this year. Who did he score the 49 against?
Alabama.
It was Alabama.
Yep.
I'm not saying AJ Dybantsa is going to score 49 against Texas, but the possibility is there. Like, he's the nation's leading scorer, and he's going against an atrocious defense. Hopefully Sean Miller has them ready. Because the one thing that he has done decently this year is figure out how to take opponents out of their their bread and butter and their game plan at certain points in time. That worked pretty well for them for a while. And maybe they'll be able to do that with AJ Dybantsa and BYU. I don't know. What I do know though is that there are 5 stats that we have an article up on Texas Longhorns on SI right now by Jordan Epp with 5 stats to know ahead of Texas and BYU, and there's a couple of them in here that are particularly interesting to me, Zach, because I don't know how people come up with this shit, but they do. And props to Jordan for this one in particular. Texas has to take roughly a 7-hour flight to the Pacific Northwest to reach the Moda Center in Portland, where they play tonight. Furthermore, they will play 2 games in 3 days, something that college teams rarely have to do. This season, Texas has played 6 games that met a similar criteria, playing 2 games in 4 days with a travel day in between. This excludes back-to-back home games or the Southwest Maui Invitational, where they did not travel in between games. In these situations, the Longhorns went 4-2 in the second game with wins over Texas A&M, Georgia, Oklahoma, and LSU. And that's interesting. After long travel on short rest, the Longhorns are actually pretty good.
Yeah, and also BYU's maybe a little bit rusty because it's been quite a few days now since they last played in the Big 12 tournament because they got eliminated early by Houston. So they didn't play super deep into the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City or Texas. They didn't really have much time to think. As soon as the game in Dayton ended, granted, Sean Miller did say they had a little bit of like a plane issue and they were a little bit delayed off the runway. And so they had a long flight cross country to Portland. They didn't really have much time to think about, okay, when's our next game? They're getting on a flight and then they're going straight to media availabilities next day, straight to practice. And you're just immersed into all of that, where BYU has had a lot of sitting, had a lot of time to think. And so there's always like that cliche argument about it if there's a rust factor when it comes to these teams. And, is rest better or does it cause rust? And so we'll have to wait and see. We have seen that happen before with teams, but there's also been times where, regardless of what sport it is, that entire idea just gets thrown out the window if a team is more talented. And I think BYU is certainly more talented, so that can play into their advantage. But it will be interesting to see because Texas, it was an emotional win, but they kind of have their legs underneath them. They have kind of some confidence a little bit that, okay, now we're out of Dayton. Now let's see what we can do. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to wait and see about that. I do want to point out with AJ Dybantsa, as Jordan does point out in his article, that yes, he leads the country in scoring, but the second closest guy to him is Jordan Riley of Eastern Carolina. And AJ Dybantsa has a full 1.7 points average over him. So that's how insane this guy is at scoring. And I pointed out that you see some of these higher scoring guys boast their numbers on a bad team, but and I think that there's evidence of that when you see that AJ Dybantsa is number 1, and then you have a guy from Eastern Carolina, you have a guy from Kansas State, and you have a guy from Jacksonville State. All those guys are not in the tournament, but AJ Dybantsa is. And so I think it shows that he's the real deal. And I think Texas fans should be worried about him potentially tonight.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought him up again because there's another. I'm going to read the rest of the 4 stats because I think all these are really cool. I'm glad you brought up AJ Dybantsa though, because like you said, leads the nation scoring 25.3 points per game. This season, Texas is 1-3 against teams that ended the season with a 20-point per game score. They beat Alabama and LeBaron Philon, but lost to Cameron Boozer, Darius Acuff, and Josh Hubbard of Mississippi State. So that does not bode well for Texas because they do not fare well against elite scorers in terms of record. Where they do fare well is when they out-rebound their opponent. And I'm old school. I think that rebounding is like one of the 3 most important things in basketball. If you win the rebounding battle, you have a really damn good chance to win the game. Texas out-rebounded NC State by 13 and is now plus 265 in rebound margin this season. And they are 17-4 when winning the rebounding battle by 5 or more. But they are 1-8 this season when they tie or lose the rebounding battle. So that is going to play another critical factor in this game. The stats bear it out. A couple more for you. Sean Miller, 9-4 in the first round of the NCAA tournament. This is his 14th appearance in the tournament. In his previous 13, 9-4. We don't count the first 4 because that's not really the NCAA tournament. It's a play-in game, but that's okay. They are through it now, and we are where we are. And then the final one, this is really interesting to me. Like, there's a reason that Vegas has this game so close. I think this might be one of them. Entering the NCAA tournament, BYU ranked 24th in the nation, averaging 83.9 points per game, while Texas ranked 26th, averaging 83.8 points per game. So their scoring averages are literally 0.1 separate. So I don't know. Maybe the final score of this game will be 84-83 or something like that. In fact, I'm going to predict that, Zach. I'm going to predict Texas wins 84-83 and moves on to face Gonzaga in the round of 32. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't totally disagree with that. Of course, I'd love to see Texas advance because I am here after all, and so I want to see them play another game if I'm coming all the way out here to Portland, so from Austin. But I do think it's going to be tough with AJ Dybantsa. I'm not sure that I totally buy into the Texas defense putting together a second straight game where they are productive on the defensive end. So I do think Texas' season will end tonight in Portland. If I were to do a final score, I'd probably go maybe 81-70, 77 or something like that. So it'll be a close game. I do think that it is kind of seen as a toss-up game, even though BYU is the number 6 seed because they have struggled at the end of the season. So did Texas, of course, but I think that can play a factor. And Texas obviously did play in the first 4, so there's a chance for them to ride some of that momentum. But I do think with AJ Dybantsa, he's going to be too much for Texas to handle. I'm not confident in the defense's ability to stop him, and so if he's getting his and the rest of the Cougars roster is getting theirs as well, I don't see a path for Texas there. So you got to stop AJ Dybantsa. But I do think Texas will fall. Unfortunately, that's just if I'm thinking with my head, that's just what I'm feeling. But of course, I do hope that I'm wrong. But yeah, that's just me though.
Coward. I'm kidding. Yeah. No, I mean, I can see it happening. I just, I like Sean Miller in these opening round games. I really do. He tends to get the best out of his team when they're really up against the wall. And that's, he's very seasoned in the NCAA tournament, and that gives me a little bit of confidence. I don't know. I'm just trying to be a little different too. I'm following Jay Billis's lead. Texas get to the Sweet 16, and then hey, maybe they'll go on an Elite 8 run. We don't know. Probably not, but we don't know. Just a reminder: Texas and BYU tip off tonight at 6:25 p.m. at the Moda Center. The game will be on TBS. You can listen to it on the Longhorn Radio Network. The announcers are Brad Nessler, Wally Zerbiak, God, what a throwback, and Jared Greenberg, who will be the reporter. And then, we'll see what happens. I like Texas's offense. I don't like Texas's defense. It's kind of been the story of the season, but we'll see. But thank you so much for tuning into this edition of the Texas Longhorns on SI podcast. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast, and comment down below on YouTube to let us know your thoughts. It really helps us out in the algorithm. But most importantly, be sure to tell somebody you love them. We'll catch you in the next one.